guys and welcome to IAMABIKER.com, and today we have the Yamaha FZ-S Fi. So it's been about 8-9 months since it's been launched, and well, it replaces the already quite popular and successful the Yamaha FZ-S and of course the FZ-S FZ version as well. So both versions still do exist, but now both are Fi, and the changes are pretty much cosmetic. You got LED headlights at the front, redesigned tank section, and a couple of changes around the bike. It's not a dual seat now, it's a single seat, which is substantially bigger and more comfortable, I must say. So let's go through what's different, and let's as usual start off with how the engine behaves. So the engine is pretty much the same, just that it's now fuel injected, so you miss out on the grunty sound and feel of the carb version, but what you have now is something which is much more refined and is a much more fuel efficient. That was probably one of the a little bit of a issue with the FZ series from Yamaha. Even or some of the versions, at least if you ride hard, they were known to be not so fuel efficient, but this one definitely is much more fuel efficient now. It produces, I mean, it gives around above 40 most of the time. So the engine feel, now when you thumb the starter, everything feels very refined. There is no drama as such of any coarse feeling. It's very smooth. Once you get going, you need to rev it a little bit because the torque really kicks in post 2500, around 3000 rpm. So even if you're a single rider or with the pillion, you need to just rev it a little bit to get going, but it's quite spontaneous. It's got enough power to pull off from a standstill even with a pillion, which is quite good, even though it's just a 150cc bike, so it feels good in that way. And through the gear shifts are really good. No issues there. Through the gear shifts, it's 5-speed gearbox, by the way. Things are smooth, and you're comfortable in city speeds. Like anything between 0 to 100 is quite good. 100 comes up and 6th gear around 7000 rpm, and you can maintain that, and things are quite refined. Top speed, well, not for this bike. It should probably do about 110, 115, 120, that range, depending on rider weight, etc. But like I said, so 7000 rpm in top gear, it will do about 100 cruise, and in top gear around 5000 rpm, it's around the 65-70 mark, which is pretty decent for a bike of this range. So, and well, sound, it sounds pretty decent. It sounds the typical Yamaha FZ sound. Nothing much has changed there. Probably it's a little bit more muted now, but it still sounds good and fun when you rev it. Okay, now coming to the handling and braking aspect. So this has been typically the FZ's strong point, and it has always been Yamaha's strong point as well. So in that way, this bike still remains quite good. So the curb weight is just about 137 kg. So moving it around, even in parking, is so light. It feels so light, very easy to move around. As you can see, we are in a muddy place and still moving it around to take the shots, which is Akhil has been doing it behind the camera. So even those things, it still feels very light. Out riding, of course, where it's most important, it feels very light as well. Changing directions, no problem. It handles very easy in traffic, tight traffic situations. You can flick the bike. Even if you're riding slow, the bike still feels light, and there's no issues whatsoever when you're handling it. Probably one place, maybe the front tire could have been a little bit better. Right now, it's the MRF Zapper, which take a little bit of time heating up. And so while you're getting in places like Bangalore, where the morning temperatures are low, you need a couple of kilometers in before you can really go hard on the brakes. But other than that, no complaints whatsoever. The suspensions, the front suspensions is soft. For suspension, telescopic forks, good, nice, beefy, fat forks in front, typical FZ style. The rear, I wish was a little bit softer, being a commuter bike, but still no issues on the whole picture when you look at it. So even for a daily use, which this bike is totally meant for, I think it will be still a lot of fun. Coming to the brakes, yes, so the front and back, both brakes are disc, and then you have a single channel ABS at front as well. So no matter what situation, your braking is good. It is a bit spongy in the sense that you don't get that immediate sharp bite, but overall for the type of riding you're going to do on this bike, in 99% of situations, the brakes are really good. And something which I really don't talk about much is the rear brake, because in most bikes it's really not much to talk about, but on this bike actually the rear brakes are quite good. And even if you really jam them, for some reason it doesn't immediately skid like on most bikes, and the rear doesn't step out and come front. But this one is actually quite progressive. We have nice feel for the rear brake. So again, that's something very good on this bike. So one thing about the riding position is that it is quite comfortable. The handlebars are not low set or like super high set. They're in a nice position where it frees up your elbow so that you have a lot of movement in city traffic without any issues. So So even in traffic, when you are doing thing between traffic, it feels easy and light. The seat is actually quite comfortable. It's a bit harder than before, but it's much more wider, so it feels much more comfortable, especially for the pillion as well. If you can see, the rear grab rails quite functional. They're quite huge. They really do the job quite well. And coming to the meters up front, well, it's a basic meter. It really looks good, especially in the evening and night times. It's got a blue backlit, well, that's a tough word to say, blue backlit reverse LCD meter, so that feels really premium. But it does miss out on the gear indicator, which probably would have been nice for a commuter bike. Coming to the LED headlights, well, not a big fan of LED headlights in general. They do have a separate, like for example, the FZ-S had only like a single pot with the high beam and low beam. This has a separate thing for the high beam and low beam, but still they're just about functional, not hugely great in terms of lighting up the road. Typical LED behavior. So functional, yes, but I really would prefer the halogens or something. A more powerful LED would have been even more nice. So build quality throughout is quite good. The switchgear quality, everything is quite good. I like how they integrate the pass switch on the headlight high beam low beam switch itself. That's quite nice. One thing you should watch out for is probably when you tilt the handlebar totally, there is a little bit of lack of space, possibility of hand touching. So especially when you're wearing gloves, it does get in between. Not a huge disadvantage, because you're not going to ever turn it full most of the time, but just something to watch out for. So one thing that I really like about the new redesign that they have done is that now the tank looks even more massive. Like in this angle, the tank looks really massive, and also from the front, when you look this way, the macho look that it gets. So guys, that's what the Yamaha FZ-S Fi version 3 is all about. Do let me know if you have any questions about this bike. I'll get back to you in the comments immediately. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. So it's Akhil riding. He's usually hiding behind the cam. I'm going to take up his job right now. Nice.